Hey, it's your girl Tia Robertson. I'm the host of Entrepreneur Insider. Right here on RETV every Thursday at 6 p.m. Eastern for entrepreneurs and news that you need to know about. See you there.
Thankful Thursday.
Thankful Thursday.
We
We made it.
made it another week. How fast that went.
It
Good
did.
evening, Narada. I want to welcome everyone that has tuned in tonight and is watching with us. Please feel free, as I always say, to comment, to ask questions, and
Mhm.
your feedback is so important to us. Helps out a great deal with the conversation. I know Kieasha and I can just talk.
We can.
We can just talk, but Kieasha, I just want to let you know I was actually able to share the stream. So hopefully,
Okay.
we'll be able to get some more people to take a look at it. But if you're not afraid, if you are watching, if you're not afraid to just say hi to us, let us know that you're there. Go for it. This is part 2. I had the pleasure of chatting with this amazing woman last week.
Hmm.
And, I I don't take it lightly of the people that are in my life.
Hmm.
And looking at, as we are closing in on yet another year,
Yes.
can you believe that? Yet another,
No.
right? Closing in on another year, and for us to be talking about legacy and the importance of it. And I see my friend is on here. That's my Auntie Phil saying, hey, friend, thank you, Auntie Phil, for tuning in. Yes, Narada, time does fly. But my grandfather and grandmother started a ministry 40 years ago. And so I have the opportunity. I'll be so close to you. I just thought about this. If you have the time, if you can drive to Milwaukee next Sunday.
We're going to talk about it off of the
Okay.
thing so that I don't have to say it.
Okay. But I just thought about it. I'm sorry. But I'm going home because it's 40 years and my grandfather passed away in 2019. Thank God, my grandmother is still here, but we're honoring, their legacy.
Mm-hmm.
And it's so important because we're in a time now where everything is about right now.
Yep.
And if you know anything about scripture, the scripture tells us that it's temporal. It's all
That's
temporal.
right.
How you and I looked at 15,
Mm-hmm.
by the time we turned 25,
Totally different
didn't
people.
look the same.
Mm-hmm.
35
Mm-hmm.
didn't look the same. And Lord's will, if I live to next year, I'll be
Mm-hmm.
45. Things change.
Mm-hmm.
So you have to enjoy them in the moment. But
Yes,
what's
ma'am.
more important is, what are we leaving behind
Yes.
for our offspring,
Yes.
our children? And some people may say, well, I don't have any children, but do you have nieces? Do you have nephews? Are there
Mm-hmm.
people that you love? I wasn't related, as we said last week, I wasn't related to Dr. King. I
That's
wasn't
right.
related to Malcolm X. I
Mm-hmm.
wasn't related to James Baldwin. I mentioned these names last week, but
Mm-hmm.
their words have impacted my life.
Mm-hmm.
So
Mm-hmm.
we're here again with the beautiful Kieasha because she has a book that will require us to do some work
Absolutely.
that I love. And
Mm-hmm.
the title of the book is Take My Hand, and it's on Amazon and Lulu. And I know everybody didn't get a chance to tune in last week. So Kieasha, if you wouldn't mind, just go ahead and explain to those that are watching why you chose to have it to begin with.
Well, first and foremost, thank you for having me again. So I enjoy our conversations, of course. And then
Yes.
secondly, well, as I said last week, it was a labor of love for me, because I lost my mom in 2011. And as we stated last week about you and I both being motherless daughters,
Mhm.
there is a thing where there are times when I still pick up the phone to call my mom. And it's been, since I said 2011, it's been all of these years. And anything I celebrate, anything that happens with my son, I still want to reach out to her. And so my initial reason for doing it is because there was still so much I didn't know, still so much, so many answers that I mean, questions that I wish were answered. And
Mhm.
so that was my initial reason. And then secondly, I have a son. And because of my loss, um, I want to make sure that he has something tangible, when he's older, that
Mhm.
he can actually show his children, or hopefully, he'll create his own at that point to leave to his children, but he'll have something tangible as a keepsake. So essentially it's a keepsake journal,
Mhm.
and it's for parents. And actually, you're absolutely correct. You don't have to be a parent to
Mhm.
leave something behind. It's
Mhm.
for parents, guardians, grandparents. You can be an aunt or uncle. If you're just a friend of a child that you'd want to leave something behind to, it's for anyone who wants to leave, because it's essentially words of wisdom,
Mhm.
advice. There's an area in there about, advice about love, advice about integrity,
Mhm.
advice about spirituality.
Mhm.
Um, so many opportunities of communication and of leaving a legacy. And I also wanted to speak to what you were speaking about with the authors. I thought about uh, how it's so very important to us, to leave insurance, or to have a property to leave to our children, or a business and things of that nature. But those things, though they are essential, that's a great thing, that it should be something that's on your list, of that your to-do list, to make sure that you leave your children comfortable. On the flip side of that, I guarantee you, anybody who suffered a loss, There's no amount of money, no amount of things, no amount of superficiality that will replace that blanket that you curled up in, that necklace that you wore, that ring, or something that you wrote down, an old letter that was written, a card you gave to them. There is nothing that would compare once you're no longer here, other than something like this, something that's from the heart. So
Yeah.
that essentially was my reasoning.
That is beautiful because, again, like if you all haven't had an opportunity, please watch the show from last week. It was really, really amazing. And I just felt that we needed just a bit more time with that because it is so important. Like I said, we're in a society where so much is focused on right now. And yes, we should live in the moment, but also we should be preparing, for the inevitable. And that's something that I respected so much about, my grandfather, is that we didn't have to scramble when he
That's right.
passed. Everything was in order. But
That's
it's like,
right.
even with that, like I said, I'm grateful that there is some footage where I
Mhm.
can hear his voice. There were words that he spoke, and I wrote it down, and I can carry that with me. And it's like that wisdom can be passed on to, like I said, not only my children, but people that come in contact with me. I was thinking about, that my elders, those that impacted my life.
Mhm.
And people, when people pay me compliments, I really think about the people that raised me, that
Mhm.
had a hand in raising me. And I've had
Mhm.
teachers that had a great impact in my life. I had Sunday
Mhm.
school teachers, Bible study teachers,
Mhm.
my aunts, my grandparents. It's God was always strategic with placing me around people to give me guidance that I needed. And
Mhm.
this, I just want to pause there because of my mom's lifestyle, and I talk about this every now and then, she wasn't always present physically.
Mhm.
So God inserted other people there. And I just want to encourage whomever's, watching, you don't know who you are to someone else. When we choose to sit with our gifts and
Oh yeah.
not do anything with them,
I definitely.
we don't know that. And it's
I.
just like, even now, this right here this is history. Hey, Auntie
Mhm.
Lori, someone else say hello, or Frida, Lynette, thank you. Hello, dear. Thank y'all for tuning
Hey,
in again.
Frida. Hey, Auntie Lynette.
Girl, that's your Auntie Lynette.
That's my auntie. Hey, auntie.
Oh, okay. I don't know. That's
No,
beautiful. So
that's no. I thought you said that was your aunt. Frida's.
that's Auntie
I know
Lori.
Frida too.
Girl, you're so crazy. I said Auntie Lori, but that's you
I'm
so
like,
crazy.
auntie. But I want to say something. Let me tell you something that's so profound.
Mm-hmm.
I was literally just watching something yesterday where this man he did a reel, and I have to share the story because it is. I literally said yesterday to myself, I'm gonna mention this to Toya.
Mm,
So he did a reel and he was in tears. He was saying he was driving down the street, riding down the street in an Uber, and on the street there were 5 prostitutes, right? And
mm-hmm,
so they're driving. I guess it's a seedy part of the neighborhood or whatever. They're driving, and he said something in him said to stop. And
mm,
so he asked the Uber driver to stop. So the Uber driver said, "No, I'm not about to stop." And he said, "Please, just stop for one moment. Let me get out." He
mm-hmm,
said he walked past 4 of the ladies, and God told him to stop and talk to one.
mm-hmm,
So he spoke to the one and he told her, "You're better than this."
mm,
And she said, "Why would you pass everybody else and say that to me?" And he said, "I don't know why. I just wanted to tell you that you're better than this." And she
mm-hmm,
said, can I use your phone?" He said, "Yes, let her." He said, and he was saying, "I have no clue why I let this lady use my phone. I don't know her. I have
mm-hmm,
no clue why I got out of that car. But
mm-hmm,
anyway, let her use the phone." She called her dad and gave him his phone back. He went about his way. Fast forward a couple of months later, the
mm-hmm,
dad called his phone and told him, "I just wanted to say thank you. I don't know who you are, but my daughter is in a rehabilitation center. She's doing so much better." And I asked her what made her do this now after so long of doing the wrong thing. And she said, "A stranger told me I was enough." I
wow.
said that to say, of course, you already know I was bawling,
Mm-hmm,
but I said that to say that is literally how I try to live my life and how I try to raise my son. With that sentiment in mind, you have no clue who you'll be to somebody. You
Yeah.
have no clue how much a kind word will mean. You
Yes.
have no clue how much, just a kind thought, compliments. Some people have never received a compliment in their lives. You
Yes.
have no clue how a kind gesture, how far that'll go, and how you'll impact anybody's life. So to me, it is so very imperative that we start to treat each other like, what if God was one of us? You have no clue who you're meeting when
Well, yeah.
you're talking to people. You don't know who I am and what I carry, just as I don't know who you are and what you carry.
But let me say something. I think I said this last week. I think of scripture, and the word of God says, one planteth, one watereth, but God gives the increase. And when we have these thoughts that come to our mind that we're often dismissive of, some of us, because of our insecurities and the rejection that we possibly have felt over the years from human beings. So, let's just be real, we're not always kind to each other.
That's right.
So there can be a buildup of fear, hesitation to initiate conversation with people. Again, we're in a society where it's just like, we don't talk to
Sometimes
each
you feel
other.
like you can't. Yeah.
Yes, and it's just like, why is this coming to my mind? You never know. Somebody already planted. I'm certain that seed was planted, but it was when that man's obedience in an Uber stopped and talked to her. And while you were talking, I thought about it. I said, yes. She said, it was 5 of them, and she was singled out. But I think about how all of us have our own ministry. There are
Yes,
women
we
we're
do.
going to be able to reach. I can't touch them. That they're not for me to touch. That's okay. And there are women that I'm going to reach that you can't. So
That's right.
once she changed, it's the snowball effect. And we talk about the world being a better place. It really starts with us just being obedient. And some people, they don't honor God. I always tell you all the time, I'm a very special person. And I say that in the nicest way. I'm a very special person in the head. However, I do not hide my faith. And I think that we are ignoring that still small voice, even if it's just a hug. And we start talking about, well, what if they resist? And I just think about the times in your life. Go back and think about when there was something that you needed, and out of nowhere, somebody sent you a text. Out of nowhere, somebody called you, or it was a stranger that said something to you. And I just want to say this, I shared this. I've shared this before, but I believe it's worth sharing again because you never know who is tuned in. I remember when I was in school and I was going back as an adult with children. I was married with children. My children were small, and it just seemed like it was so much weight on me. I just didn't know if I was going to be able to finish. And I remember I was taking a break in between classes. And so it was like this passing time, like everybody in the hall is like lunchtime. And I was just sitting and looking out the window. And I just happened to turn back and look back. And this young man never stopped walking, but he pointed at me and he said, "Don't you quit."
See?
I did not know him. If he walked past me on the street today, I couldn't pick him out. But he said, "Don't you quit." Like, he spoke directly to me. And that is what I needed to hear in that moment. And I believe we take for granted who we are as individuals, our greatness. We are so much better than us sitting around. And I say this often. I'm not the only person that's supposed to be doing this type of platform. I'm not.
Yes.
It's not that, and I'm always honest and transparent about this. This is not something that I necessarily wanted to do, but I didn't want to shortchange the stories of so many amazing women I've been blessed to know, and the knowledge that you have, the wisdom that you have to be able to share that with someone else. We have to do better with that, But I hear that and I go, wow. What will that do for her? And so for you, again, you all, we're talking about legacy. We all really need to think about that, because I want my children to remember the importance of keeping God first and the way that God wants us to treat human beings. That is
Mm-hmm.
so important to me.
Mm-hmm.
But I love that you said, like, in the book from last week when we were talking, and you were saying how, things you didn't know about me. Like, and again, you can purchase her book. It's a workbook. You have to do some work. Take My
Mm-hmm.
Hand on Amazon and Lulu. And I believe you said last week, Lulu is the binder, right? And
Right.
Amazon is the
This
paper.
is the actual. This is the binder version, meaning
Okay.
it has a coil binder.
Okay.
And on Amazon, it's a paperback.
Okay.
So that's the difference.
Okay.
That's why I put them on both platforms.
Okay. Awesome.
Um, but it also houses so many other things. Like there's an area in the book that says, "I'm sorry for," and it gives you the
Mm,
opportunity to apologize for
mm,
things that you felt you did wrong in raising your children. Because I oftentimes I sit and think about, yes, there's the whole sentiment of I did the best that I could, I did
mm,
the best that I knew how to do,
mm,
and things of that nature. But I also feel like I told you last week, as me and my son got closer, there were things and areas that I didn't even foresee, areas that I didn't pay attention to, or that I thought that I had under control that were not. And I feel like oftentimes how do I put this? We parent our children like, do as I say, not as I do. And
mhm,
sometimes that's counterproductive
mhm,
because it implies you're not as human as I am, or you're not as important as I am, or
mm,
your feelings aren't as valid as
mm,
mine are. And
mhm,
so in that area gives you the opportunity.
mhm,
They bleed like we bleed, they hurt like we hurt. When
mhm,
they come to tell us their problems or their issues, you know, like I said, the old school in me, I was talking about this last week as well. Sometimes you'll open your mouth and you hear your mom's voice or hear something that your dad said growing up. And so the old school in me used to run rampant
mm,
when I was talking to my son. And then it dawned on me, you know, if my mom and dad's voice is in my head, my voice will be in his head.
mhm,
And you want to know that you heard what your child said to you. You
mm,
want to know that you want them to know that
mhm,
their feelings are valid so that when they enter into relationships and marriages, they don't minimize themselves
mm.
because they feel like what I have to say is not important anyway.
Right. And not
And,
being, like I
and
said
so,
before, not being assertive. And that is so,
exactly.
yeah, that's important. That goes a long way within other relationships, on jobs,
Yes, yes.
having the courage to ask for more money and,
Exactly.
you
And
know,
so once I realized that I was doing that in my relationship with my son, I
mhm,
kind of switched that up because at the end of the day, you want them to be able to be their own advocate. If you're not around, they need to be able to advocate for themselves in
absolutely,
every arena, at
absolutely.
work, at school,
Mhm.
in every arena. And I don't mean be disrespectful. I
Okay,
mean,
yes. Okay, let me go. We're gonna pause there because I
go ahead.
believe that's the part of me that I feel like my grandmother.
That's right.
Society now, it's, expression, and everyone's so free and they're in their truth. Well, the truth of the matter is you can express yourself, but you will not disrespect me. And that even goes up until you are an adult. Just
Mm-hmm,
because you're an adult,
mm-hmm,
you're still going to respect me as
mm-hmm,
as an elder. And for me, I'm in my 40s. Someone that's old enough, especially to even be my parent, I'm
mm-hmm.
not I'm not going to approach it. I'm gonna watch my approach with them. Now I'm
You're
gonna be
supposed to.
firm.
Mhm,
I'm going to
mhm,
be firm, but I'm
mhm,
going to be try to be mindful of not being disrespectful.
mhm,
But let me say that as well. Just because you're older, that
mhm,
does not give you the license to just talk to someone that's younger than you reckless
mhm,
and then
mhm,
not expect some type of response. I need to say that as well. But we
mhm.
have to learn to train your children to be assertive, to speak up, to
Yep,
express themselves. But let me tell you this, the bus is going to stop at some point.
yep,
And that's what we're going to, that's just what we're going to do here. We're going to
yep,
stop right here. But I just wanted to throw that in there because again, it's people have ran with that of, I wasn't able to express myself. So I just let my children just say whatever they want. So then you have children who are in these
mhm,
schools thinking that they could just curse teachers out. See, I
Well,
worked in
that's step
school.
one. That's step one. First of all, see, this is a whole different subject. See, I don't even know why.
I always do that, but it's okay.
But first of all, that's step one. Step one is there, like you said, there's a major difference between being um, able to advocate for yourself
Mhm.
and speak for yourself and make sure you defend yourself in situations where you need to be defended and there's nobody around
Absolutely.
versus cursing someone out, because you can express. I have heard plenty of people express themselves in an educated manner and not use one curse word. And
Mm-hmm.
so I can say everything, and I mean, I'm an adult and still to this day, I can say everything that I want to say without cursing you out, essentially cursing you out without cursing you out.
Oh, yes.
And so that's where the tools come in. And a lot of times, to be honest, these children don't have the tools because their parents didn't have the tools to impart
Mm-hmm.
that, that way of communication to them.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
And so they express themselves just like someone else expressed themselves to them.
Mm-hmm. Because, like you said, I love that you said that, there's a part for us to ask our children to forgive us.
Mm-hmm.
And, and I believe like people, and I haven't received the book as of yet, but I can imagine again for someone to say, well, I'm not a parent, so why would I get it? I don't have anyone to leave it to. You can leave it to a friend.
Yeah.
Leave it like these are your words. And I
Mm-hmm.
always say no one can tell our story better than us.
That's
No
right.
one's like you give people an opportunity to tell your story when you don't speak up. Because
Mm-hmm.
I like to be quiet for so long, but after a while, it's just like, psh, okay, so this is really how it is. Like I need to express this. You get to hear, they say, you get to hear it from the horse's mouth.
That's right.
It is we all have to conduct ourselves in a manner of preparing for our exit, because
Mm-hmm.
there will be one. And like I
Mm-hmm.
said last week, no matter how well we eat and I'm a good person and all of that,
Mm-hmm.
you will leave here. We're going to leave.
Mm-hmm.
And it would just be so beneficial to those that we are leaving in our physical absence.
Mm-hmm.
Those words, that I'm sorry, that reassurance. I love that you said last week, in case I'm not here for your big day. There are
Mm-hmm.
people that wake up and think that they're going to be there for their children's graduation,
That's right.
or they're going to be there for their child's wedding, or that,
Mm-hmm.
so like you said, those moments, what we call special moments.
Mm-hmm.
Just prepare. You don't know.
Yeah.
Like again, the word of God says you prepare for war when it's at a time of peace.
And another thing, have those tough conversations. My son absolutely hates this conversation,
Mm,
but have those tough conversations,
yeah.
which is why I always talk to him and I say things like I told you guys last week. I'm not talking to this version of you. I'm talking to the older version of you,
Mm,
because if I'm no longer here, and whether you're listening or not, these words will always be in your mental Rolodex. You will always hear what I said. Now,
mhm,
will you apply it at 18? Probably not. Will you then maybe apply it at 30? Maybe you will.
mhm,
But you'll always remember what I said. And also, I think that for me, it's not just the book. For me, I just have always thought about when people are so excited to leave materialistic things like, oh, so and so left me a house, or
mhm,
I was left this car, and I
mhm,
think about, at the end of the day, if it's your grandparents, you're going to miss the most the stories that she told, or uh, just her old perfume. You're going to miss what you're going to miss the most has nothing to do with monetary value.
yeah,
Nothing. And
yeah,
so it's so important to me, number one, as a parent, to be the kind of parent that, whether I'm on posting pictures on the internet of our experiences, whether I leave him $1 million insurance policy in a car and a house, I
mhm,
want my son when he's talking to his children and his grandchildren to talk about how great of a mom he had, period.
Mm-hmm.
Not what she left me, what she did for me. I'm
Mm-hmm.
talking about innately, spiritually, the way I treated people, the way he saw me treat people, the way I treated him. You know, in the world of social media, I don't want to just be a good mom on the internet.
Wow. Yeah.
I don't want to be a good social media mom. For show. I
Mm,
wanted to be the kind of parent that when the cameras are on, when the cameras are off, my son is still very proud of the mom that he has.
yes.
And
Yeah.
so what a better way to leave that just in memory. Yes, you can't, I won't be here physically, but you'll always be able to flip a page,
Mm-hmm.
and get a little bit of advice from your mom.
Mm-hmm. How amazing is that? And I even encourage people, like, as we are approaching, the giving, well, we're in the giving season, to purchase this, even if you all have parents that are elderly. They don't even have to write it out. Get those words out. And like I think I said this last week, I believe that I call it a workbook because there is some work, but it's worth it,
Mm-hmm.
because I believe sometimes when we start writing, it's like those things that we didn't realize were there, it starts
Mm-hmm.
to come back. And so we start getting these downloads that
Mm-hmm.
are important. I believe it's going to be therapeutic,
Mm-hmm.
but it would be great for people. If you have a parent that is older, just ask them, just say, this is one of the best gifts you could leave me, honestly.
Mm-hmm.
Again, money and all that. Yes, we need money to survive, to take care of ourselves and all of that. But at the end of the day, how can you really put give a price tag to the value of a person?
You can't.
No, you can't. You can't do that.
You
And what I
can't.
value more is the time
Mm-hmm.
that I was able to spend with someone. And when someone leaves in the physical, you're like grasping, trying to make sure that you remember, certain things that were spoken, or we have fun at this birthday party or what have you. And it'd be nice to just flip that book. And it's like my parent was able to leave me with this. So I encourage you all, you may not feel as if you could benefit from it, but there's somebody that that enjoys writing. This would be a perfect gift for
Mm-hmm.
someone that to be able to say, hey, this is, and I'm big on supporting, Black businesses, and especially a woman business. And for you to have this book in your heart for
Mm-hmm.
some years, and to get it out there, you all please do it. I still encourage you. I know some of you are watching. Thank you for tuning in. This is my last show for the season, and I'm just grateful for everybody supporting. I know we're getting into the halfway mark, but if you have questions for Kieasha, feel free to do that. And it doesn't even have to necessarily just be about the legacy. If you want to
Yeah,
come,
give us whatever question.
you can give her a question in your comments. But we thank you all for tuning in. But like you mentioned before about the importance of having that open dialogue with your child.
Mm-hmm.
And how last week you said, as parents, we have to be mindful that our facial expressions, and I make a lot of facial expressions,
Mm-hmm.
can cause our children to shut down.
Yes.
And let's not even just say with our children, just
People in general.
period, in general.
Mm-hmm.
And we have to encourage one another. Beyond how my face look, I might be looking funky, I might be looking confused, I don't know where this is coming from. Say what you need to say, get it out.
Mm-hmm.
Because this is why we're holding on to so much, because we are too concerned about how somebody is going to react. And I believe wholeheartedly, people say they're in their truth, but with certain folks, you don't show up the way you need to show up because you're afraid of how they're going to respond to you.
Mm-hmm.
And we have to get better.
And this is
beyond that. Excuse me.
This is not only, what you're saying is not only in reference to parenting. Me and a couple of friends talked about that today in reference to relationships as well, in reference to marriages. It is so difficult for some of us to show up as our entire selves
Mhm.
because of so many. It's mitigating factors. It could be, that your partner is insecure, or that you're a stronger person or a more outgoing person, or you're more accomplished.
Mhm.
And it is so very important that despite whatever the circumstances are, like you said, it's a difference between acting like you're in your truth and actually living in your truth.
Mhm.
Because what happens is, if you're not living in your truth and being who you are in its entirety,
Mhm.
uh, eventually that situation is not going to work if the only person that they've ever been introduced to or interacted with is the representative.
Right.
It's not going to work. They fell in love with somebody that you're not.
Mhm. Mhm.
Or, the friendship was derived from someone that you're not. So that's so very important. And for the in the latter, when it comes to parenting,
Mhm.
like I said that because a lot of our children, my son had to tell me that. He said, Mom, we are one way in front of our parents and another way when we go outside. And I
Mhm.
said, why? And he
Mhm.
said, because we can't be ourselves.
Mhm.
And I said, why not? And
Mhm.
he said, because for a lot of kids, if they are actually who they are, then their parents will judge them, or they may be in trouble, or
Mhm.
whatever the case may be. And so that's why I said the thing like, try to control and limit what you say to a certain extent,
Mhm.
because you'll never find out. You'll never know whatever's going on in their head, whatever's going on in school, whatever's going on in their teenage relationships. You'll never know,
Mhm.
because as soon as they go to open their mouths, you're shutting them down. So then what does that tell them? Okay, let me shut down. I can't express myself to her or
Mhm.
to my dad. I can't express myself.
Mhm. It
So,
teaches them to lie, but
yes.
also too, I love that you said that. And this is, beneficial to people that, have, smaller children.
Mm-hmm.
My children are now grown. And, not to say that I still can't use some of these tools, because the relationship shifts when they are adults.
Mm-hmm.
But I believe that it is important to encourage them to speak again, no matter how you look.
Mm-hmm.
Because what they have to understand is that they may be in environments, and there are people that they love to try to intimidate you.
Mm-hmm.
And when we train our children at home, and some of us, we need to start doing some of those practices even now with each other as
Mm-hmm.
adults. We may not realize why we are conducting ourselves a certain way. And that's why, I am an advocate for therapy.
Mm-hmm.
Okay. I have,
Definitely.
I call her our neighborhood therapist. I'm going to put her information there. I'm serious. Talk to somebody,
Mm-hmm.
because we have to be right now, more than anything, we need to unpack a lot of trauma that we have encountered in our lives. And sometimes it takes you since you were talking about relationships,
Mm-hmm.
any type of relationship, really, we may be conducting ourselves a certain way or feel like we have to be a certain way because when I show people this side of me, it was rejected. It was,
Mm-hmm.
yeah,
So
it
it's
was
a
rejected.
defense mechanism.
It's a defense mechanism, but
Mm-hmm.
also too, what we have to learn to do is maybe that person just what they weren't the person to, for me to have that relationship with. And
That's
oftentimes
exactly what it is.
we'll have these desires
Mm-hmm.
for a friend of mine. She's doing a show tonight about, toxic friendships and, being able to look out for that. This is just not some kid stuff.
Mm-hmm.
Adults have toxic friendships.
Absolutely.
And thank you, Narada. Yes, talking it out, it is very important,
Mm-hmm.
because when we don't do that, we are stacking it and stacking it and stacking it.
Mm-hmm.
And then when it comes out,
Mm-hmm.
see, it's gonna come out one way or the other, but when it comes out,
Mm-hmm.
it comes out the wrong way. And then now we bleeding on to the wrong people
I
because
say that all the time. I say that all the time. I say all the time, if you don't heal, you will bleed on everyone you encounter. That
mm-hmm,
is so very important. And that actually goes with parenthood and, friendships and relationships.
mm-hmm,
Because you have some parents out here that, like you said, haven't necessarily healed from childhood traumas, or, they are carrying so much that they impart that onto their children, or they won't encourage them to pursue certain things because it didn't work out in their life. And
Mm,
it's a fear mechanism. And so we impart that, a lot of us, or the latter, we try to you see so many parents are like trying to live through their children, or hey, be in this pageant or be on this team. I remember, they didn't let me on this team. So there is so much of that that's going on, where the root of it is that the parent didn't heal.
yep.
And so they're still walking around with broken pieces and shards of glass, cutting their children up with their insecurities.
Yeah,
And
and we've been guilty of that, and this is why,
absolutely.
and like you said, it is fear, and we assume that what we can't assume is that their story is not our story. None of us have the same story.
That's right.
We may
That's
have
right.
similarities, and yes, that is your child, but your story is not your child's story, and we can
No.
work so hard for them to not experience
Mm-hmm.
certain things. At the end of the day, life is going to be life. And if we don't prepare our children to be able to handle some tough things, I have my own take on this newer generation who's not able to, some of them, they just really aren't able to handle anything. And I'm just amazed at how everybody break down so fast. They are not going to be ready for this world. And I used to tell my children when they were younger, listen, I love you. I have never, ever practiced disrespecting my children.
Mm-hmm.
I showed them respect because I was teaching them respect. But I told them, I was like, if you can't handle me, you are not ready for that world.
Oh yeah, it's a monster.
It is.
It's a monster.
It's an absolute monster.
Yeah.
And we are setting our children up for failure when we don't prepare them
Mm-hmm.
effectively
Mm-hmm.
for the real world.
When my son turned 17, I knew he was about to go to college. So he turned 17 in his junior year of high school. Actually, he turned 17 right before he became a senior. I stopped cooking, and I totally stopped cooking, and I didn't do his laundry. And I told him, for the next year, we're going to play real life. And the reason we're playing real life is because if you go into college, trade school, whatever your next step is going to be, requires you to be a responsible adult male. In order for you to do so, I need to give you the tools to be able to do it. If you want to cook something, I'll show you how to cook it, but you have to cook it. If you want to do your laundry, I showed him how to do his laundry when he was like 14, so he already knew that part. But I'm saying that to say, because of the world that they live in, everything's kind of given to them. Everything's quick, and so if you don't give them those innate, just basic tools and basic skill set, they are definitely not going to be able to survive on their own.
Yes, I love
that is the thing.
And I really, I wish I had a clapping sound. Maybe I'll have to add that next season. But that's amazing that you stopped, because, my children, and I've mentioned this before, they be talking about me like, you don't cook as much as you used to. I was like, I don't have to, number one. And I realized that I have a lot of, a lot of the ways in which my grandmother was raising me, I realized I was passing it down to my children. Yeah, when I was a little girl and, I lived with my grandparents off and on, she would make breakfast for us. But when we got of age, and I'm talking about like I'm in middle school by now, you could smell all of that wonderful breakfast, but sometimes she just cooked it for her and Joe. I guess her attitude was, if you hungry enough, you're going to get up and cook you something to eat. That's you taking care of you. It does not start when they are 18. We have to train them when they are much younger. Some parents, they like to do every little thing for their children. It's just like you are crippling your child. Because they don't, and again, someone like me who worked in the school system, if we have 27 5-year-olds in K-5, I need them to know how to put their coat on.
Right.
If your child doesn't know how to zip up their coat, and your coat has to be zipped up, especially, living in Wisconsin at that time, Look at
Mhm.
the amount of time we're wasting going around zipping up your child coat because you still zipping it up for him or her. No,
Mhm.
let them do it. It's that whole independence. I used to
Mhm.
act like it was a big hurrah when my children were walking and they were
Mhm.
old enough to take their diaper to the trash. I would make
Mhm.
it into a huge thing, like it was the best thing that they could have done. And they would be
Mhm.
so proud because they were a part of the cleanup. All
Mhm.
along, I'm training you, pick
Yep.
up after yourself. You
Yep.
know what I'm saying? So for
Mhm.
that is commendable. I must say that for you to train your son on that way, because so many people go off to college,
Mhm.
they don't even know how to sort clothes
Mhm.
and
Mhm.
just helpless.
Mhm.
So if
And
you
here's
are
the
hungry
thing,
enough, you're gonna
wait,
take care of yourself.
you know, brutal honesty, he's still the only child, so he still gets away with a lot.
Oh,
Um, you know, I'm still me,
uh-huh.
but on the flip side of that, well, I feel like as parents we have to pay attention to our children too, because one thing I can say about my son, he forced his independence. And what I mean by that is he was always that kid. He taught himself how to read. He was 3, taught himself how to read because we went and got the books, and like we did sight words for 2 days and he knew how to read. He literally took my car and taught himself how to drive, literally at 13. Um, he was always that kid that was a risk taker anyway. And
Mm-hmm.
so what I wanted to do was, okay, I paid attention. Okay, this is who you are. You're not afraid. You're not afraid. So let me catapult that
Mm-hmm.
into a skill set that you could use for the rest of your life. Okay, you're not afraid. So do this.
Mm,
You know what? I want chicken. Make chicken for dinner
mm-hmm.
because you're not afraid. Or um, s- come on, we're going to do this conference. You speak because you're not afraid. You
Mm,
know, I use that to help build him, to help, um, to build his character and
yeah.
build his skill set because he's definitely, I said this before, the male version of me. He's not shy. He can have a conversation about anything. And
Mhm.
that to me is why you pay attention to whatever your children's strengths are.
Yes.
Because
Yes.
every child is not like that. Some children are introverted,
Mm-hmm.
and we try to force them out of their shell. And that's
That's
not
true.
fair because you're trying to force them to be somebody that they're not.
That's true.
And so you have to really know your children.
Yes. Know thyself.
Hmm.
Because again, know thyself because you just won't be around your family. At
Yes.
some point you'll have to leave your home.
Hmm.
It's not healthy to be a hermit. It's
Yep.
not healthy. We are on this earth to be around other human beings, and as scary as it can be at times, being around other human beings, we are on earth to connect with
Hmm.
others. But you said so much. It makes me just think about the work that we still need to do as individuals. It is
Yes.
ongoing. Had a conversation with one of my cousins, and I was just letting her know, like, we're always a work in progress.
Yes.
I think that we need to remember that we are
Hmm.
always a work in progress. The moment you get over this hurdle, because this
It's
is
something
life,
else.
it's
Yeah.
something else. And it's not that it's negative, but and sometimes there are things that happen to us so long ago, or we may have had some experience. And like I said, we probably buried it, but it takes having an interaction with another individual that brings it
Mhm.
out.
Yes. We are forever healing. That's crazy that you mentioned that because I just said that to one of my friends. We're forever healing from something. And if you're a person like me that is productive, not only am I forever healing, but I'm always thinking about what can I do next?
Mhm.
What could I do better? And that in itself is PTSD
Mhm.
because sometimes it's okay to just sit
Mhm.
in whatever your current accomplishment is. It's okay
Yes.
to sit in that 15-cent raise you got at work. It's okay
Yeah.
sometimes. And I am definitely a work in progress in that way because I'm always thinking about the next thing to do or um, what could I do different, or what could I do better? So yeah, that healing thing, it never, and not only does it never go away, but I think that a part of maturity is embracing that.
Yes.
There is nothing wrong with the fact that you're forever healing. That's called improvement. That's you're constantly a work in progress. That nobody's perfect. So if you're not forever healing, what exactly are you doing? If you're not working on your spiritual growth and your mental growth and your, mental health, what
Yes.
exactly are you doing?
Existing.
Which is counterproductive.
You're just
What-
existing.
Yeah.
That's what you were doing.
Yeah.
And it's important. Letitia, she said more people need to know that. More people need to know that it is so important.
Mm-hmm.
That we look at ourselves,
Mm-hmm.
that we look inward. And oftentimes, I believe, I said this before, we never know where a message is going to come from.
That's
That
right.
young lady, for those of you that may have tuned in a little later, Kieasha shared a story about a man, seeing a group of prostitutes, and he felt the need to get out and talk to one. We say that each one reach one, to get out and talk to one.
Yep.
We have a lot of work to do, and I'm sure he has his own stuff that he's doing.
Wait. Oh, I'm so glad you said that. At the end of it, that's why he was in tears.
Okay.
Because he said at the end of it, after he, said she went to rehab, he said, the fact that God chose me, as broken as I am. And he was bawling, which of course made me cry. But that's exactly, who God chooses.
Yeah.
Because nobody's perfect. We're all broken. That's also why, number one, me and you have been friends since day one, but that's also kind of a common bond that we share because both of us are very transparent. And I literally just said that to someone I was talking to earlier. When I'm talking to someone about a situation or something that they're going through, I always lead with things that have happened to me, because I find that if you know that I'm broken, you also know it's okay for you to open up to me because I can relate.
Yeah.
And I think that's the problem, in parenting relationships and all of the relationships. You can't sit so high on your throne of perfection. And because what happens is you can't help people, you can't heal yourself, you can't help those around you heal, because they're thinking, I'm talking to someone who isn't flawed.
Oh, but and that goes back to the children.
That's
we
right.
have to show them the humanity. And I always say this, we will always be our children's first guide.
Yep.
They acknowledge that or not. Mama said this, daddy said this.
Yep.
Before they can understand who God is, whom you haven't laid eyes on him, it's you believe it by faith. But it's like, my mother said such and such, my father said such and such. And we need to be as whole as possible. And things that I know now, what I know at 44, my goodness, I would be a much better parent.
Yes.
Than I was starting out at the age of 9, being pregnant at 19. What I know now, I actually believe I got better with each child.
It's a thing.
It's like, the first one is a true guinea pig, especially when you're young and you're like trying to figure you're growing up with them.
That's a thing, though. That's the thing. Actually, me and my sisters, I'm the youngest. I have a sister 4 years older than me and a sister 17 years older than me.
Okay.
And we all had the same two parents, but we were all raised differently. You know why? Because we all came into their lives at different points of their lives. And so the thing is, like you said, as parents, we have to show them the humanity of it all.
Yes.
I literally said to my son, listen, I don't have this all figured out. And we're going to be fine, but I want you to know I don't have it all figured out and you're still okay. And he said to me on the flip side, he said, it was, like he was maybe 7 or 8, and we were driving in the car. And I said, ooh, we're going to have to, no McDonald's today. We struggling. Made a general statement. And he said, Ma, I don't struggle. And I said, you struggling today? And he said, no, Ma, you struggle so I don't have to.
Wow.
And it was profound. I never forgot it, because that's the thing. Like you said, they look at us like we're perfection. We're the problem solver. We have it all figured out. I don't have to worry. My mother or my father have it. They have it.
Yes.
And, that's it. So number one, it's severely unrealistic, because it cripples them into thinking that they don't have to, number one, think for themselves. And then number two, that you're perfect. Because the moment you make a mistake, or the moment that they find out something about your past or anything, then they're devastated, because look at this, you're human. Who knew?
Yeah. God definitely knew. And I know that we are getting closer to the time of the show to end it. I'm so grateful that we were able to have this conversation. And again, this is even still legacy, because again, I always say this, everybody can't tune in at this time, but they're able to, watch it later. And I encourage all of you again to please support Kieasha. Her book is Take My Hand. It is a workbook. Take My Hand. That is so beautiful. And I just think about the hymn, take my hand, lead me on. I grew up, singing that. Thank you, Stephanie. She said this was amazing.
Thank you, Stephanie.
Thank you, Stephanie, for tuning in. But while I'm weak, there are moments, and let me tell you something. You may be strong today, or you may be strong at 8 o'clock in the morning, and by 3 o'clock, you can get some news that will make you feel like you have zero strength.
It's a matter of
zero strength. And we know that words are so powerful.
That's right.
We know that we can speak life or death into any situation, And I am big on, thank you, Auntie Lori. I am big on this. Our mind has to be renewed every single day. That's what I said when we talk about those hurdles. Every single day, our mind has to be renewed, and we have to teach our children. Your mind has to be renewed. When my children were younger, like you said, when we talk about crippling, and I'm going to let you close it out when we have 1 minute left. When they were younger, if they asked me a question, Mom, what does this mean? They're real young. I would tell them. But as they got a little older, and you're in school, and when your teacher tell you to turn to page 35 or chapter 15, you go there. So when you ask me, what does such and such word mean? Go look in the dictionary. You go seek that out. That which you want to know, because that's going to help you. I have the knowledge. I know what that word means.
That's right. That's
so
right.
You need to go, and because again, it's teaching them. Thank you, Auntie Phil. It's teaching them to seek out the information that's important to them. And parents, here's another nugget, and I feel like my grandmother when I'm doing this. These jokers, let me tell you something. When it's something that they want, they'll remember.
Oh, absolutely.
They'll remember. If I said I'm going, and I should tell my children that if I told y'all I'm going to take y'all to Chuck E. Cheese, and it could be 2 months down the line, that date is there, because that's what they want to do. So if I tell you to clean this counter before the night is over, do not catch amnesia, and hold them jokers accountable. Accountability starts at home. My grandmother, we couldn't pull that, I need to soak this pot. That lady will wake you up and be like, come clean out this pot. Now, some pots have to soak overnight. Don't try to stretch that out to 2 days, because it wasn't going. And I realized that I am the same way. And some people may go, oh, that's harsh, let them be. No, because when they go to a job and their employer tells them to do something, they expect them to do it the first time. And when you teach your children that at home, it's called discipline. Teach them jokers that at home. When I tell you to do something the first time, you need to do it. Otherwise, guess what? Now you're going to be inconvenienced, because now I got to, switch gears here. But anyway, yes, I just,
you said I got to switch gears.
Listen, I thank God for the lady that I was raised by, because again, that's legacy.
Yep.
I'm gonna tell you something. There are jobs that I can go back to because I left the right way, because I
That's
showed
right.
up and did what I was supposed to do.
That's right.
So we're going to end this. Okay. My husband's calling me a psycho. I am who I am. The whole house knows it. My sister called me OCD. I do not care. I say what I mean and I mean what I say. But
That's the whole point.
I want you all to be, listen, I say this all the time. I did not want to raise assholes, and I was very clear on that. So I was very strict on, if I told y'all to do something, I expected to be done, because that's how I was raised, and it didn't hurt me. You all are reaping the benefits of the sacrifices of the adults that played a role in me becoming the woman that I am today. So as we get ready to close this out, I know you said it last week, but there's so much inside of you. I just want you to end with what I know now. What is it that you know now, Kieasha, that has carried you, that I believe that can help someone else? What do you know now?
I want to go back to the man who stopped the young lady and, piggyback that. What I know now is that you should, and I will always apply being a blessing everywhere that I go. What I know now is how very profound it is, and very how much of a blessing it is to be a blessing. And, that's just, that in itself is everything. It's not only about writing books or whatever the case may be. More than anything else, what I know now is I have a voice. And if anybody has a voice or a purpose, walk in that, use that gift, because you never know who will be affected by that.
That's it. Thank you so much, Kieasha.
You're welcome.
You have a standing welcome on the Women's Champ Show. And I thank God that, a book club was started 3 years ago by a gentleman, and it was a book writing for those that wanted to be authors. And that's how Kieasha and I, met, and we've been together ever since.
Yeah.
Is who she is. And she invited me last year to speak at her first conference, which was amazing. And I was just honored to be on that, on your platform with those amazing women. Everybody, let me tell you all something. You have something to offer.
Yes, you do.
You have something to offer. So if it's some nice gesture, and you all, it's not just in the month of December where we think about giving, and it's not about just giving the gifts, but give time, give a smile.
Right. That's right.
Think about others.
That's
we are
right.
all struggling. All of us.
Mm-hmm.
I'm going to go back to something real quick and we're going to get off of here. But when I think about people, and those of you that know me know I'm with my Black Power people, but when I think about Malcolm X still delivering messages when his life was threatened, getting up to go and speak the morning after somebody bombed his house with his family in there, and still got up and left a legacy where I can still watch a video that happened the decade before I was even born. And those words resonate with me. So our words matter. Our words matter, y'all. So
yes, they do.
Thank you again.
You're welcome.
You all have a wonderful Christmas. A happy New Year. Be the best person that you can be so that you can be a blessing to someone else. Kieasha, you have been a blessing to us all tonight. Thank you all for watching. As always, be safe and be great.